I'm so sorry for ruining your wedding, whoever you are.
But thank you for giving him the confidence and the lessons learned to make fire-ass fucking music.
There we go.
Everybody, welcome to DOST. My name is Rajit Salim. I am the host, and today I am with Sayak Das. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing amazing.
Right on. Thank you for having me, man. This is so cool.
Of course, man. You said this is like your first interview, right?
Basically, yeah. I haven't done, I guess my last band kind of did some stuff, but in terms of just sitting down and having a real conversation, this is the first time I've done that.
Oh, dude, you came out with a bang. You dropped your first single how long ago?
June 24th. I guess it's been about a month and a half, something like that. It was cool. It was definitely a long time coming. It's the response has been amazing.
Yeah.
I feel great about it. But
How long have you been in music for?
oh man, I've been in bands since I was like about 12 or 13. And it really kind of took form when I went to college. So I had an emo band there that kind of transitioned into an alt rock band that kind of transitioned into this project. So I more or less since I've been 13.
Yeah.
But for real, since I was like 18.
Got you. And the other thing is, you were a Bengali guy from Kolkata, but you're into like metal and emo music.
Yeah.
How does that happen? 'Cause
it's funny. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and like the rock scene there is huge. And it was a huge part of like the culture that I was around. But it really kind of started in 5th grade. I had my 5th grade teacher, Mr. Hale.
Yeah.
And he burned me a CD of the entire Ocean Avenue album by Yellow Card. And at that point, my dad like didn't want me listening to rock music for some reason.
Yeah.
But so I used to sneak this CD. And then I went to India that summer, and my cousin showed me Iron Maiden, Linkin Park, Bullet for My Valentine, like all the OGs, and I just kind of fell in love when I was like 10, and it just went from there. It definitely appeals to like my nature. I feel like it's a very strong and like, and I love listening to it. I love playing it.
And so you picked up that type of music. How did you get entered in music? Like, what was your first instrument? Who introduced you to that actually creating?
Word. That's kind of a long. My parents pushed me into playing classical piano when I was like 3, and that was kind of the start of it. So they had me doing that from when I was like 3 to 16, and then in like 5th or 6th grade, I got a guitar, and then I got a drum set, and just kind of went from there. So my introduction into music was kind of from my parents, but in terms of like what made me want to go for it, I would say, honestly, I think the turning point was when my cousin showed me that music. Like it just, something clicked, and I remember driving around in the streets of India with my little like USB stick MP3 player, listening to Linkin Park, being like, this is it. Like this is like what I've been looking for, And so I started my own bands around when I was 12 with some buddies of mine from middle school. And it kind of went from there. I think I played my first show when I was like 15 at the Alrose Villa in Columbus, Ohio. Shout out. I think they closed over the pandemic, which is tragic, but played my first show there. I specifically remember looking out. I'm playing like this Flying V Jackson guitar.
Wow.
Like, yeah, like literally like cut off attack shirt, full blown scene kid. And I remember looking out at the audience and seeing like 4 old dudes that I met at the bar, like 5 kids that were there for supporting other bands, and like my friends all with their arms around each other and just headbanging. And I was like, this is it. Like this is the only thing I'm gonna do.
So you're 12 years old and you're headbanging. What is your parents thinking?
Oh man, they did not like it. They did not like it. My dad definitely still has a pipe dream for me being like a concert classical pianist.
Really?
That's 100% like what he wanted me to do.
But you had, before you released this project and have come on your own, you were in the music industry before doing other stuff, right?
Yeah. So I went to college at Berkeley, and that kind of gave me a bit of a launch into the music industry. I would say that was I was in a band called Dreamer and Son. I was singing for the band, writing for the band, doing the thing. And that was my first real, that was my first tour. That was my first EP. we had CDs, we had the whole thing. That was really like the real, real world beginning of kind of all of this. And then that turned into my last band, which is called Roy Juno. Mm-hmm. And that was like playing my first major festival. That was...
So you guys have had success in your own right with that band as well?
In a certain sense, yeah. It wasn't... Bands are hard, and I've been very fortunate to play with some just assassin musicians. But the way that I work, and I'm a multi-instrumentalist, and the way that I write, it was kind of hard to find my footing in a band setting. But what we were able to do was really sick. It was the first song I put out with over 1 million streams, like first real tour. I had some kind of boots on the ground for a little bit, but I considered that side of my career as paying my dues. Mm-hmm. And
so what inspired your transition to go solo?
It kind of was always the goal. I was very fortunate to be with some really, really killer creatives and just insane world-class musicians that are touring right now with huge artists and doing so. In that context, I was just like, I knew bands growing up. I knew the world of being in a band growing up, and was around bands that made it. I watched 21 Pilots as a kid, go from playing high schools in Westerville, Ohio to this. and it was amazing. But I think the thing that made me want to go solo was that I'd grown up and always been around metal and rock, and always made metal and rock. Mm-hmm. And I was ready to move on. I was ready to jump into really anything and more or less do whatever I want, genre-wise, sound-wise. And it just made sense. I mean, I was in Nashville before I came out here to LA doing the band thing. And it was a very, humbling and trying experience, but I learned a lot about what I want out of music and what I want out of my career. And the reality is, I just want to be able to make literally anything.
Yeah.
And
what was that moment like for you when you're like, you know what, I'm going to leave Nashville and I'm going to LA and do the damn thing?
It was liberating. It was scary, but I really felt like I had no other choice. Mm-hmm. I had a crazy time in Nashville. The tornado that came through in the springtime hit my place. I was living with my ex, and this just the whole thing. The band breaks up. The whole thing happened. So I was really it was kind of fight or flight. This was the only option to come out here and integrate myself into the music community out here.
Yeah. And so you're going through multiple breakups in a way, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was a really insane time.
Do you give that a lot of credit though to who you are now, and you're happy that it happened?
Absolutely. I mean, I try to operate on the everything happens for a reason mentality. Mm-hmm. And the person that I am now and the way that I view the world and the way that I view life and the things that I'm grateful for, I don't think I was grateful for before I realized that I could lose it. Mm-hmm. So as awful as those experiences were, I got some of my favorite music that I've ever made out of it. And I feel like the most myself that I've felt in a long time. It absolutely, I was extremely lost for a minute there. Yeah. And now I feel like, hey, this is who I am.
That's awesome.
What I do.
And you came here, swinging. And I want to introduce the world to what that is. So let's go ahead and grab the Spotify. And which one do you want them to hear first? No Sweat or?
Oh man. Can I defer to you? Do you wanna?
Yes.
Whichever one. Maybe Did You Really?
Let's do Did You Really? I think that's the one that grabbed my attention, and both of them did. Feel free to sing along with her, just vibe out.
By the bright side, the half glasses of the nice wine with the red flags out of sight. I
it's like it's still metal, but it's sexy and emotional.
Thank you, man. I was trying to blend a lot of my influences in this.
And you're building tension, right?
Those jazz chords, it's like,
and then it goes. It's still building. And is this about the ex that you referred to earlier?
yeah, we're cool, we're cool. But this is how I felt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it goes.
Did you really think I'd stay the same?
You could hear that in your voice, though. And I think the message in this is so clear and so relatable.
Thank you, man.
And so I'm a big fan of it. Can we refer to the next one now as well? So this is No Sweat, and you did this with Lackhoney.
Yeah, the greatest of all time. Greatest of all time.
Incredible creator. How did you guys meet?
This is great, dude. Yeah. Literally, like, basically my last day in Nashville. Mm-hmm. I am with, who am I with? I'm with my friend Johnny Murray. Shout out Johnny Murray. You're amazing. I'm with my friend Johnny Murray, and I meet up with this guy, Theo Candel, another amazing artist. And we're going to this bar in East Nashville, and then they're like, yo, my friend's doing a listening party, Theo. Yeah. So we go to Theo's place and we start listening to some music, and I'm actually working on this song with a guy out of Nashville. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yo, I really want to get like an Indian rapper on this. Originally, the only one that I knew at the time was Abi the Nomad.
Yeah.
So I was bringing him up. I was like, yo, like this, there's a section in the bridge where you go into this halftime, and it would be so sick to get an Indian rapper on this. And the other side of it is that I ended up working, like, the other feature on the album is also an Indian artist by the name of Desi. His name's Devesh Dayal. He's a G, one of my best friends here in LA. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the car talking with these guys about it, and they're like, yo, like, we know this guy Ali, who's a rapper. He goes by this artist named Lackhoney, and we listened to him in my car on the way to this party, and I was like, how is this dude not a superstar?
Yep.
And B, like, how did I wait till this moment, right before I'm about to move across the country to meet this guy or to hear about this guy? And me and Ali, like, FaceTimed for the first time, and I was like, here's the song. And literally in like 30 minutes, he sent me back the verse.
Wow.
It was insane. I was like, all right, like, you're my hero, and I love everything you do. And so that was kind of the start of this, like, friendship that's really kind of started to blossom.
And I think that's the context that's really important to hear before you hear the song, because one, two Desi creators. Two, it's not just like I like your stuff, it's got respect for each other's music and an actual appreciation and friendship.
Yeah.
And that really shows in your guys' music.
Dude, that's amazing.
In this song and the song that no one else has heard yet, that they will soon. But can you go ahead and play No Sweat? And feel free to commentate on it as well.
Sure.
Tunnel vision when I'm talking to you. Wanna lick you till I can't see the truth. It's all fun and games till I puke in the booth. Does she still think I'm cute? Fuck it, don't need the boot. I need a detox. It's a new sensation for a fucked up.
And I can't think of any comparison. This sounds like something I've never heard before.
Dude, the way that this song came about was so random.
And then
Wouldn't have it any other way.
what's coming?
Doesn't even matter what you say.
There you go.
Cause you get it what you get, no sweat, don't bother me.
Man, where did that hook come from?
I was pissed, man. I was in. This was like this was like one of the last things I did before leaving Nashville. Mm-hmm. I'm like working on this song when I meet Ali, and when, the very last thing that I did before leaving Nashville, and I was fortunate to work on this with the great Wilson Macbeth and the great Hera Lynn. Hera and I went to college together, and I've known her for a few years now. It was my first time really being in a traditional setting. I mean, a traditional session setting, because I'd been basically in like garage rock bands this entire time. We would get into a room, and I'd bring a song, or we'd write it in the room, and that's how we made our music. So this was like the first, let's go into a studio, let's work with a producer and a writer, and it was really awesome. So the hook kind of came from. I mean, these songs are part of a greater project, an EP called No Loss, Only Change, which really details out how I felt coming out of Nashville, almost anything that I had gone through up till that point, and the idea of like choosing myself and moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So this song was really this was my way. Almost all of these songs are me trying to talk to myself, about like, you're getting what you get. No sweat, don't bother me. I want to be able to, we were talking before we started recording about Code.
Yeah.
And how he isn't worried about anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get there.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time growing up, like very unsure about if I deserved to even be in the space of the greats.
Yeah.
I guess. And so this whole EP is honestly me really talking to myself about choosing myself and about choosing my own strength and choosing my own vision, choosing my own path. And like, so a lot of these lyrics, as cocky as they can sound, are just things that I really needed to hear.
Yeah.
And that's where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're getting what you get. No sweat, don't bother me. Can't get it like this. I'm the best that you're gonna see.
Yeah.
Like it's cocky, but it's also like
it's advice to yourself, right?
Yes. And in that, I'm hoping that it doubles out as advice to anybody who feels similar.
Mm-hmm.
But it starts with me. Like it starts with something that I need to hear.
Mm. And so when you speak on confidence, did like your childhood maybe being Desi Parlay a part of that?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Ohio, interesting environment to grow up as a first generation Desi kid.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of points where I feel like I could have used guidance that I didn't have any, because there's no way to like, we're the first.
Mm-hmm.
There's no blueprint to kind of follow to figure out, hey, this is how you feel like you belong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like punching in the dark until it works. And I think a lot of my childhood was spent trying to figure out where I fit in. And that definitely resulted in a lack of confidence that I have that I found in music, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I gravitated towards it so much, because it really felt like somewhere that I belonged and something that I was supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that grew into now, which, now I feel like myself, you know what I mean? Like I'm this is it, this is what it is. Like,
well, you're at the forefront, essentially,
dude, it's a crazy thing to think about. I mean, and I know we were trying to get her on the podcast too, but my sister is just absolutely crushing it with that and setting like a precedent for not only music, not only Indians in music, but our family. Yeah. Like it's so sick, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like
and for your parents to see you and your sister, who's Parovi, by the way, created like a huge song on TikTok originally about a year or 2 years ago, and now is on the Elvis soundtrack.
Dude,
right?
It's so out of control, man.
It's wild.
It's so out of control. She's such an amazing vocalist and such just a creative. She's such an amazing creative. I've watched her throughout the years. I mean, I feel like nobody's really seen her draw yet.
Yeah.
And it's like out of control. It's totally out of control. Like, and the whole thing. So I think for our parents, it's I never would have thought this is how everything was gonna like land.
Yeah.
But I mean, my parents are so doting, and so
because now that they see you guys like one, especially together, right? Both going on this venture.
Yeah. And
now they're like, well, tell me if I'm wrong. Like usually, at least if there's multiple siblings, one can be like the star, doctor, engineer, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But you guys are like, nah, screw it. We're gonna both do music, and we're both gonna be really good at it, and it's paying off.
It's man, I mean, there's so many aspects to this that I think about all the time, which is like, what if my parents didn't want me to go down the route? I think for me personally, it took Berkeley to really like be like, this is real,
Okay.
But once it became real, and once my parents really saw what I wanted to do, they were in my corner. They've been in my corner 100. I can't even begin to express how fortunate I've been to have the family that I have. Like it's actually out of control. Like they have. I literally wouldn't be anywhere.
Yeah. Are they creative by nature too, your parents?
But they didn't really get a chance to.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They didn't really get a chance to go for it. And I find that throughout my family. I went back to India in 2019 for the first time since I was like 13.
Yeah.
For my cousin's wedding. And I remember we're sitting on the terrace of this place, like one night after the reception. We're all getting drunk. There's an acoustic guitar going around. And every one of my cousins, even on the new side of the family, were like, if I could do this, I would.
Wow.
You know?
Well, you know what's wild about, I think, our culture specifically? We're deeply creative, musically, choreographically, visually, in all the arts. But I think what stops a lot of people that we grew up with was the fact that, like, being a real person, having kids, having a family, that's so important. So we can flirt with it. We can flirt with being creative. But once we start looking at it as a career option, everyone around you goes, whoa, 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 slow down, right? Mm-hmm. But once you catch that drive, I think like you did, you caught that win and realized how much it meant to you and took it all the way and did it. I think people in the beginning are like, oh, we're not sure. But now that they see what you're doing and your friends and family back home, like, we wish we could do that too. It takes bravery, I think, as a Desi person to go into music.
I genuinely believe I didn't have another choice. Like that, it
really?
Just, this is what it was going to be as soon as it clicked. There was no other option. And so and this is the other side of why I feel like I'm so fortunate and just happened to be in the right spot at the right time, in the right part of my family generation, in the right part of you know, my parents making the decision to come to the US, like all of these things that I had nothing to do with lined up in such a perfect way to allow myself to happen.
Yeah.
And so for me, you know, I feel like there's these shoes that I have to fill, you know, that this level of like bravery really that my parents had, that my grandparents had, that my cousins have, that the entire thing, the entire lineage of my family over and over again. You see this I don't know, this like entrepreneurial mindset.
Like a different form of bravery every generation.
Yeah. It's 100%. I mean, going down this route the way that it has been for me right now is 100% in my blood. Yeah. Like my mom would tell me stories about my grandpa, who in his area of Bharat started his own business, failed at first, came back to his mom and went, you know, I failed. I lost all my money. Like, what am I gonna do? And my great grandma was like, I've change, you know, in my pocket. Yeah. Here's something to get you going again. You can't stop.
Yep.
You can't stop. And from what I understand, that liquor business grew up into it supported my mom's side of the family for ever since.
Wow.
And it became kind of a central point of that area in Bharat. Well-respected business, well-respected family in the Kolkata area. And then my dad, I mean, like he made it.
Yeah.
You know, he came out here and he made it.
What did he do out here?
He's an engineer.
Okay.
I think now I want to say he's the CTO of an education tech company called Forrester.
Wow.
And he works in education software and selling that to like the government and stuff like that.
So this entrepreneurial spirit, the willing to go, trusting that other people haven't, is baked into your blood, essentially.
It has to be like it, and I see it in my sister too. Like there's this go-getter kind of mentality that I feel like was instilled in us from birth by our parents, and you know, as part of the generational movement of like, here's what we're gonna pass down to our kids.
Yeah,
you know, like I think that's why. especially my dad, like really, well, not especially my dad. Both my parents are so like they just get it and they let me do what I need to do. But I think the big thing is that like as soon as they saw me being self-sufficient with this and trying to figure out how to do it myself, they were like, "Oh, he's doing what we all do."
Yeah.
Which is finding your place. And
I think there's something to say too in a part of the story where your grandpa failed for the first time.
yeah.
a lot of people are like, "Oh, they failed, that's it." But I think every entrepreneur, musician, any person who kind of breaks it on their own has failed many times before, either privately or publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a few strides to get to a point where they really wanted to be. Did you have moments like that?
Oh yeah, dude. I that's what I. It's if I don't think about it the right way, I can go down, the not the right path thinking about this. But this is basically my third time really restarting.
Gotcha.
My last band, Roy Juno, was a lot of serious firsts, and again, I've been able to play with some assassins, some just crazy musicians, and when something like that doesn't work out, it's easy to chalk that off as a failure. But I needed to get here. I needed to get to the point where I could go into the studio and make music the way that I am right now. My manager has been so instrumental in like putting me in those positions and taking me from you were the front man of a band to you are an artist. So Roy Juno and Dreamer and Son were real shots at making it, and they didn't work out. But they also gave me like literally everything that I tap into.
It was a crash course for the music business.
Absolutely, dude. And I learned so much about myself and how I work and who I am and the whole thing. And I think Dreamer and Son especially was a huge part of me. It was the first time I'd sang. I grew up as a multi-instrument. That was what I prided myself in, was playing instruments, playing as many as I can. My sister was really the singer. And then I got to college and I was like, I've been writing my whole life, so might as well try singing some of this. I put together the band, played our first show, and it was just like, we got to do this. Like, this is what it is. So Dreamer and Son was instrumental in like breaking me out of my shell and allowing me to view myself as an artist.
And so with the management situation, right? When did you realize, hey, I need a team and make this a real project, the Sayak DOST project? Or did your manager come up to you first and saying, hey, like, you can do this?
It's interesting because we were kind of testing the waters with the manager in Roy Juno before that broke up. And when that broke up, I was with that manager who had suggested, like, it's time. Like, it's time to be Sayak DOST. And that kind of transitioned into this, like, growth period where I was just making as much music as possible. And things with that manager, it like, totally understandable because I was really lost and really trying to figure out what I was trying to do. But it didn't end up quite working out in terms of we didn't end up working on this project together. But she gave me such incredible guidance throughout a really tough time in my career.
She got the ball rolling.
She got the ball rolling, absolutely. And she was one of the first people to really, like, believe in me, so that alone was a huge boost. And then last week I'm in Nashville.
Last week.
Like the last week.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Before I moved. Around the same time I meet Ali, or I hear about Ali. The producer that I was working with, and I was living in this house with these guys that were all in the same friend group, had all talked about this manager from Red Light that was in their friend group. Her name's Nina, and that she was this, like, just fierce, like, just go-getter. And I would hear about her and I'd be like, yo, sick. And finally, one of our friends sent her my music and we went and got coffee and just clicked, game over. I've been working with her ever since, and she has been so instrumental in not only, like, putting me in the spots that I need to be, but keeping my head on straight when I get too in my own head.
Yeah.
I talk to her every day.
Beautiful.
And she's actually just like one of the most. You watch documentaries of like artists that have made it, and they talk about the people that put them there.
Yeah.
Like Nina is that for me.
Mm-hmm.
She's gonna be my documentary go-to. Like it's. And it's, I mean, I'm just so
That's special.
Like, grateful, man. Like I never would have thought. I never would have thought I'd be in a position where not only people believe in my music, but they want to get behind it. And it's
beautiful. And
it's insane.
So you're technically independent, right?
Yeah, I signed with Indify, or I signed with an investor from Indify, and that's been cool. We have like a marketing thing going on, but yeah, I'm an independent artist.
That's amazing, and that's wild how that a new platform like that allows you to kind of make this project.
Dude, shout out Shav, shout out Jordan,
Pretty Boy Shav, Jordan. We love you guys, seriously.
my heroes, literally my heroes. Like,
how did that journey start? Right, because excuse me, but now you're like, okay, you have this manager. How do we get Sayak DOST funded, and how do you make this?
Nina connected the dots. Nina connected us with, I want to say it was Jordan. Literally the first week that I was here, and we were like finishing up the first round of the songs for No Loss Only Change.
Mm-hmm.
So that conversation started about a year ago, and then when I finished the record a few months ago, we revisited it. Jordan has been instrumental in connecting me with people, and then he connected me with Jeremy, who is just, I mean, like a genius. An actual genius. Every single person that I talk to in the music industry, every single person that Nina talks to in the music industry feels the same way. I mean, like he just is such an enigmatic, like, and his thought process and the way that he breaks things down and the way that he views the music industry, philosophically we align, artistically we align, and now we have this partnership that is. You know, we're strategizing how to make this happen. But he's worked with some of my favorite bands of all time. I mean, he was in entry level with the 1975.
Wow.
And that's literally my favorite band. So like to have somebody that works with and had, you know, saw and maybe even discovered things in my favorite artists ever, to have somebody like that believe in my music is like, it just blows me away.
Yeah.
Every time I think about it.
Especially someone who is like tangentially, however you pronounce it, related to your favorite like artist.
Dude, I literally like, I'm just incredibly grateful to be where I'm at today, because it wasn't this good.
Yeah.
You know?
What was a moment for you when you knew, I think, let's say in like the last 4 to 6 months, where like, okay, steam is going to pick up, like a moment of optimism and hope?
I think when I first listened to the masters, I was just like, this is what I poured myself into, and as much as I want results, as much as I want to move forward with this and have these things that represent, hey, you're like making it, like I made that shit for myself, man.
Yeah.
And it felt good, dude. Like I listened to it and I was like, you did it. Pat on the back. You did it. And that's it. Like if even, and this is I know what this probably will sound corny, but like,
go ahead.
If even one person, you know, feels it and takes from it, like that, I did my job.
Have you gotten any of those comments yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm assuming it's pretty recent because you've been launching recently.
Yeah, I've gotten, yeah, dude. I mean, there's just been some beautiful messages of people being like, you know, I listened to that song. I was going through a breakup. It really helped me think about it, you know, in a different light. Because there's a ton of pain that went into this record, and it just, you know, there have been some very, very kind things said, and it's just so cool, man.
Wow.
So cool.
And your visualizer, by the way, for that is it a visualizer or teasing a music video? What was that? Because that was so visually engaging.
This is the indie mindset right here. This is the DIY, like hardcore scene, Columbus, Ohio mindset.
Yeah.
Just make the most out of the least possible. So Skylar, who is just an incredible creative, literally one of the best visual artists I've ever met, we kind of came up with this idea of doing in one day 5 shoots.
Wow.
And essentially just switching around the backdrop and I had the band for the Did You Really music video. Shout out David Cola, shout out Jake Corling, shout out Will Guild, shout out John O'Richer. Those guys are day ones. I literally met like 3 of those dudes my first day at Berkeley, and now we're playing together, and they're killers. But what was I saying? Oh, the music video. So I wanted to get the Spotify canvases. For each song, all 5 songs on the record.
Gotcha.
So Skylar and I came up with this idea. It's like, hey, how can we make 5 shoots happen in like a 6-hour time frame? And we pulled it off. So we did these like 45-second clips for each song that I was gonna use, that I'm using for like the Spotify canvas, I'm using for TikTok. And it's a way to see the performance of the song without a full budgeted music video, which at the time like I wasn't gonna be able to afford.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the mentality, make the most out of the least. I want to show you what it looks like when I perform, but I don't have the means to make the vision right now, you know? And
you guys nailed that. When I saw that, that's what grabbed my attention in the beginning. And there was a moment in that video, I told you about this, where you're like, I just saw you feel yourself. You felt sexy, you look sexy.
Dude, yeah.
And I was like, damn, 1, it's just fire to see someone do that. 2, it's fire to see a brown guy do that, making the type of music you're doing. I haven't seen that before, ever.
You,
so like, it's just cool, because you don't see people feeling themselves like that.
It took, first of all, that's so sick, man. Thank you so much, man. That it's so sick to hear that that's like what it comes across as, you know, because you can't really look at your own art and see what it really is.
Yeah.
You know, but I've done a few things to pay I was a wedding singer for a little bit.
Wow. Yeah, you told me.
Dude, same deal. Like, fortunate enough to play with just some assassin musicians. There's the drummer, Cole. Insane. Cole Insco. Craziest drummer I've ever met. Henry, the bass player, actually ended up being the bass player for Roy Juno. We started Roy Juno basically at the audition for this wedding band.
Wow.
And Henry Young, absolute G.
In what position did you play in the wedding band?
I was the guitarist and vocalist. So there's 3 vocalists, and we all had like a third of the set that we had to sing, and I was like the rock guy. And then I was the guitarist as well.
What songs were like your go-to wedding songs?
I did like all the small things. And
really?
What's it called? Shut Up and Dance With Me and stuff like that. I did Kiss, Prince. That was like my first.
Wow.
Honestly, that's probably the reason why No Sweat exists, is I was forced to play Kiss. I fell in love with it. And I was like, And then I was like, all right, I need to make like my own
version of this,
take of that, and that was it. But yeah, the wedding band definitely instilled a lot of like performance confidence in me. I definitely screwed up like 2 people's weddings like beyond repair.
Really?
Like, beyond repair.
Can you
like,
tell those stories?
Oh, dude,
please.
Yeah. Like the one that I like really remember was we're playing this wedding, and part of playing weddings is that when you're in the band, you do mother-son dance, you do father-daughter dance, you do the ceremony, and so like important things in the wedding. And I was the vocalist for the mother-son dance, and I started playing the wrong song, and she, like the mother, like yelled across the dance floor like, "That's not it."
No.
And I'm like, all right, so wedding video ruined, of like, you know, the whole thing like off, and then
they're walking up, getting ready, and the guy's videoing it, and then it's you going, and she's yelling at you.
Yeah, and I'm like I'm getting fired. Like, this is it. I'm getting fired. I almost just left. I was like, this is horrible. But then we went into the right thing, and it was fine, and we killed it. And then we started playing the dinner set, which is like where you actually play your songs and whatnot, and I screwed it up again.
Same wedding?
Yeah, same wedding. And I played, I don't remember exactly what I messed up, but I know I messed up. And I remember Henry looking at me being like, dude, like, get it together. And I remember seeing the mom out in the crowd being like, yo, like, what's happening? But then we played the dinner set and just killed it. And so pulled it back. But it was during that crucial moment of like the mother-son, when everybody's just watching these 2 people on the dance floor. And I'm out here playing like, literally, I think I played a Bruce Springsteen song instead of a Beatles song.
That's pretty major.
Yeah, and like just this like quiet moment where and I should preface this. This is one of the only times that I was playing acoustic and singing by myself.
Okay.
There was no full band thing, so it was just me.
Wow.
And yeah.
And did you have to remember? Did they have to tell you?
Did I have to remember
the song you were supposed to play?
Oh no! As soon as we all had in-ears and there was like
Yeah.
there's like a closed communication kind of thing. So
Yeah.
Henry was like, "No, you're playing." I forget what the Beatles song was, but like you're playing this. There's to play the right song. But yeah, that was embarrassing, and I'm still filled with shame.
But now you're here.
Now
Now you're here. So
Here we go.
You probably should be. I mean, maybe apologize to them. I don't know. Or tell them.
I am so sorry for ruining your wedding, whoever you are.
But thank you for giving him the confidence and the lessons learned to make fire ass fucking music.
There we go, yo.
Thank you.
It all goes into the pot, and I'm stirring that pot.
It took a few ruined weddings, but
Yes. Dude, I'm down to do that again at some point if it feels right in my life. I loved doing it.
is it enjoyable?
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
You know, it's definitely a lot of pressure. You have to know like 200 songs, like memorized, you know, and it's a lot of pressure. But it's paid practice.
Yeah.
I got so much better as a vocalist and a performer and an artist and a writer and the whole thing, just exposed to every hit ever.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like there's so many benefits to doing that.
Yeah.
And then like weddings are like one of the most joyful events that you can have, right?
Mhm.
And being part of the joy
Yep.
is a really good feeling.
And the free booze too, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, dude. Oh man, that was the dinners and the booze that they would give us were out of control, out of control.
And so, how long were you doing that for?
I did that for about a year and a half, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated Berkeley and stayed in Boston to do that.
Gotcha.
While Roy Gino was kind of picking up, and then
So you graduated from Berkeley, and then you live in Boston for how long?
I stayed for another year.
Gotcha.
And then I moved to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was there for about a year and a half, and then I moved here about a year and a half ago.
Mhm.
So I've spent, it's been.
What vibe do you feel like you like fit in the most in all the cities you've been to?
I mean, overall here,
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, like, you know, this is it. I'm around creatives. I'm around fashionistas. I'm around, you know, one of my roommates, Chris, who actually produced on the last song that I'm dropping from the record, Chris Drago, runs a company called Pathos Clothing. Just so sick.
Yeah.
I mean, like literally the designs, the quality of the thing of the fabrics and everything. I had a hat of his I was gonna wear today, but he's designing some stuff for me for stage. And just being around people of that creative caliber, living in a house with my best friends from Berkeley, producers, managers, A&Rs, guys working on different sides of the music industry, has been so good for me.
Yeah.
I was around these people in Boston and Nashville as well, but I really connected with them here. But then we were talking about it coming up. Like I miss wearing leather jackets, and I can't do that here. You know what I mean?
How did you have to like find your like fashion sense, or was that something you just always knew from the get-go?
I've always dressed pretty punk, I guess. Like
Yeah.
I was wearing like Avenged Sevenfold t-shirts and stuff in middle school, and like, you know,
Did the girls like that?
No, but we're you know,
But the
rock
music.
and roll forever. What was that? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
At the end of the day, like growing up in metal,
Yeah.
growing up in the metal space in Ohio, like definitely had an influence on my fashion. I've always loved just, you know,
Yeah.
individualism in fashion,
Mhm.
and I don't know, it's just another form of self-expression. I feel good when I wear stuff that I feel good in, you know.
And the tats too. A lot of.
Thank you, man.
How did when did you get them? Like, do you have any stories for any specific ones?
Yeah, actually, basically all of these. I
Mhm.
got to put some lotion on this guy. This I got after the tornado.
Mm-hmm.
This was kind
Tornado.
of yeah. So one of the kind of the beginning of the end of Nashville was the tornado that ripped through East Nashville, March of 2020.
Mhm.
It hit our place.
Like your home?
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it hit our place, like demolished the apartment building right next to us. it was a very, very scary time.
Were you with your whole family when that happened?
I was with my ex-girlfriend and an old friend.
Wow.
We were living together, and we all ran into the basement bathroom. We were in a townhouse complex, so it was like very crazy moment. I was sitting in the room that like got hit.
Really?
Like as we were running down the stairs, the glass explodes and like branches and stuff start flying in and stuff. It was absolutely crazy. And so at that point, I hadn't started working on my arm. I have one tattoo on the back of my neck that was the Dreamer and Son logo. But I got this as my first one on my arm.
And that was a traumatic experience, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Movie-like in a way, but still like.
Yeah, I still can't believe it happened. I mean,
Yeah.
it was really an insane moment, and it was a pivotal moment because it was kind of the beginning of the end, but it was also the beginning of what pushed me to come out here.
Yeah.
And so I got this to, I survived it.
Mm-hmm.
I survived feeling that the world was falling apart.
Yeah.
And I was just like, let's go.
That's
like,
beautiful.
And so then I just started filling out. This is funny because I got this because my dad was visiting Nashville, and we were driving by the RCA building.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, like he was telling me the story about their logo, which is the gramophone. I think the full picture is like the gramophone and a dog, and it's called His Master's Voice. And I guess the story is that there was this like, I'm gonna paraphrase this terribly, but the story was like there's this traveling musician from like the early ages who would play a vinyl recording of his voice whenever he left for his dog.
Wow.
And my dad was telling me this story. We're driving by RCA, and I'm like, this is super sick. A year later, my little sister signs to RCA.
Wow.
And I'm just like, all right, boom, done. Like,
so you got that after she...
I got this before. Yeah, I got this before after he told me that story, and then part of me signed to RCA, and I was like, this is crazy.
That's manifestation at every level of the family.
Yes, dude, it's so crazy. It's so crazy, man. And
how did they react to it?
Just me getting a tattoo?
Yeah.
So
a little bit of chaos?
Yeah, I had to. But this was like par for the course. Everything that I've done that they've been like, what are you doing, has been part of like.
Yeah, they're used to the like.
Yeah, exactly. They're used to me doing like whatever I want. So I just started filling out, and there was these things. My grandma passed away, and cobras represent immortality in culture. So I got that.
You have some Bengali writing on there?
Yeah, this is my mom's maiden name.
Oh, wow.
This is Roy.
Roy is her maiden name?
Yeah. So both of the bands that I were in were kind of plays on my last name.
Really?
Dreamer and Son is DAS.
Oh, wow.
And then Roy Juno was it was kind of a combination of this keyboard that I used to play, the Roland Juno.
Wow.
And my mom's maiden name.
And so when you were making these bands, did you make all these bands? Like, were you the head starter of them?
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Wow. How do you go about like pitching a band when you're that age one and making the name and getting everyone on board?
To like people to play in the band, or like
because it seems like it's like a startup in a way, right?
Yeah. I got lucky, man. I honestly really, really got lucky. I managed to, within my first few weeks at Berkeley, just meet and be put into positions with just the craziest musicians I've ever met. And they believed in the music, and they felt the same thing that I did. There's a video of us at our very first rehearsal. Dreamer and Son, Josh, Jake, Matt, and I, who are amazing musicians. Josh Parr is one of the best drummers I've ever met. He's playing for this artist, Pouty Face, right now. Jake Shazega, one of the best creatives I've ever met. Just all around creatives that I've ever met. He's the bassist in a band called Manic. And then Matt, another one of the best creatives that I've ever met. Matt Bolton. Same deal. One of the best guitar players that I've ever met. One of the best producers that I've ever met. And he's working on the Manic project. I think he does some other stuff. They're all in Nashville now. But there's a video of us in our first rehearsal, and you see it. You see the energy. You see the click. You see us all headbanging. We're doing this like heavy emo music, very Midwest inspired. We're doing this, and we clicked, and we felt the energy, and we played our first show, and it was just crazy. We opened up for Hawthorne Heights, and it was like out of control. And I consider myself very fortunate to have worked with those guys. They're assassins.
Wow. And did you have to like interview any of them, or was it just like you clicked out already and like, hey, by the way?
It was an accident. I was like, yo, like I want to play a show with my solo material. Both bands started off as like me trying to do my solo stuff, which is why when you asked like how did we get here, like this is kind of where I was going the entire time.
You're already scheming on it since day one.
And it just like turned into bands because I loved playing with those guys so much, and I loved sharing this vision with them. Even though I'm very, like I'm very intense with the way I go about things, which is, that bands like, but
and for your music, sorry to cut you off. Like for Sayak DOST, is there a band behind that, or do you actually do all the instrumentation now yourself?
On the records, I do all the instrumentation myself.
Gotcha.
Live, I do have a band. I think I mentioned them earlier. Will, David, Jake, and Jono are just crazy. We just shot this live set kind of thing that I'm going to be dropping with the next single, which will be coming out soon. I'm not going to announce when yet, but will be coming out soon. And we did like a live strip version.
Yeah. And I love seeing that with artists where although they're like on, most streaming services, and you usually think of them, they just make the music and you don't think about the instrumentation much. But when you can convert a live performance to like a brand performance and you can hear the drums, the bass, the guitar, and you can feel the vibrations in the air, for the type of music you're making, that's even more special,
Dude, thank you so much. And I agree. Like I love music.
Mm-hmm.
I love being around it. I love listening. I love playing it. And so any venue for me to actually be a musician in, I'm going to take. Like, and so with these guys and every band that I've been in, it's just such a pleasure, man, to just get in and jam and play. Yeah. And, with my band right now, like I had them over at my house and we have like a grand piano. I'm just jamming on it. They set up, like David set up his drum set. Jake has this electric upright bass. Like Jono's got this beautiful Strat that I love. And we're just going in. And I actually had never played with these guys at this point.
Yeah.
And immediately we're in. We're fully locked. And there's just nothing like that, man.
So what instrument do you feel more at home with?
Oh, man. It's a hard one. That's a really hard one. It's like a toss-up between guitar, piano, and drums.
Mm-hmm.
Piano, I have the most formal education in. Drums is what I went to Berkeley for. So that like I got some of the best drummers of all time were mentors for like Jackie Santos. I think he used to. I don't want to misquote. I'll probably misquote this, and I might say this wrong. I think he used to play for Shaka Khan.
Gotcha.
So just like legendary soul artists. Jackie Santos, Rod Morgenstein, the drummer of a band called Winger, huge 80s band. He, just instilled so much like real confidence in me. So as a drummer, there was this world that I was in that that actually David, my drummer right now, I remember seeing him play freshman year, being like, I'm not really going to be a professional drummer because this guy is too good. Like, I'm never going to be at this point. But he, he's amazing. I love you, David. I would probably say piano.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say piano, but it's pretty close on guitar.
Is that because that's where you started?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because it's where I started, and just in terms of the muscle memory, like it's the one that feels the most natural, I guess. And
it kind of gives you like a direct, palpable connection to like music theory and all those elements, right?
Yeah. I got exposed to theory at a really young age, and it was, so having kind of an academic approach to music can be tricky because if you don't treat it as a tool and you treat it as a rule, you're boxed.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So that's been my mentality. That was the way I feel like I got through Berkeley, was like, I'm learning tools, not rules.
Mm-hmm.
And that mentality opened me up to everything goes into the pot.
Yeah.
You know, everything becomes a tool, regardless of if it's hard and fast music theory or me listening to a video game soundtrack that I like. You know what I mean? Like it all goes into the pot. And I just I've had times where I felt disconnected from music because of the academic approach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I ended up being a songwriting major at Berkeley, which is really the main thing I do. I write for other artists too. I think my first cut with my roommate Gingerbread, Barry Cohen, and this artist Jake Miller came out like last week. Jacob Sartorius came out last week. Jake Miller comes out tomorrow.
And your music is playing in like one of the biggest video game like esports thing or something?
Evo, yeah, that was a very cool situation. Actually, other Desi people got me that gig.
Really?
There's this rapper Zed Tabani who was, if I remember correctly, he's the second rapper ever to get into Berkeley because of rapping.
Wow.
Ever. He reached out to me with this producer I work with, Desi, who I was telling you about before. Devesh is from Mumbai, and he played in an Indian metal band called Sky Harbor for years with, and some of the people watching might know, Anup Sastry is like a huge YouTube drummer. He was in that band as well. Yeah. Another Indian dude. So Devesh and Zed hit me up about this. We ended up coming together and making this gent song, this metalcore song. Yeah. And it was the King of Fighters theme at the finals at Evo this year.
Wow.
Which was very cool. But
that is wild to see.
it was sick, man. I mean, just hearing my voice in Mandalay Bay Arena, like, what? You know what I mean? Like, very cool. It was very cool.
And inspiring to watch too. I'm sure for yourself, like, yo, in the Bay, you know?
Dude, I mean, you like chase after this thing for so long and then things start to happen and it's like, how do you take a step back and look at it?
Because it's happening so quick for you right now, right?
It is in certain ways, and in other ways, it's like, am I doing enough? You know? And there's that constant battle of like, I'm pulling off things that I dreamed of pulling off when I was a kid, and I am a lazy piece of shit that does nothing. Yeah. And I haven't pulled it. Like right now, my day job is teaching. Yeah. I'm teaching at 3 schools. I'm teaching music at 3 schools right now. And the balance of like stuff like Evo and stuff like being on this podcast and stuff like putting out music to, you know, going through a day job and whatnot. It's a very weird, you know, place to be. So like I don't feel like I'm in it, but I don't feel like I'm out of it, but I don't feel like I'm not doing anything, but I don't feel like I'm doing enough. Like it's all over the place.
Well, my friend, you're doing a lot and doing enough, and people are noticing, and the music is there, and it is amazing. Thanks for sharing your stories with us, man. And is there anything you want to say to the audience?
Man. I just want to shout out my mom, my dad, my sister, Nina, my manager, my roommates, my friends, anybody who's had to deal with me over the last few years trying to figure this out. I love you guys, and I want to thank you, man, for having me on here, man. This is a very, very cool and necessary thing for our community.
Thank you, man.
I really think there's a wave of us that's really, really gonna make its.
We're coming, man.
It's happening, man. It's happening, and this is so important for that, man.
Oh, you're just as important. We couldn't do this without guys like you. So thank you.
Okay. Blindsided by the bright side, the half glasses of the nice wine with the red flags out of sight. I thought you could be the answer.